Tēnā koe, everybody. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I better explain I'm a Southlander really by birth, but I lived in Fiji through my upbringing. Came back to boarding schools in Christchurch and in a place called Waihi, which people might know is just north of Temuka, and then went to medical school in Dunedin, in Otago. But my journey really started at boarding school with a faith in the Lord. It slipped a bit through medical school, but after I finished medical school, I was over in Ireland, overseas, and found this amazing connection with a lot of Christian people. And they put Bibles in my hands and put me up and fed me with Guinness, and somehow the Lord was in it. It was that sort of warmth of the Irish people that reconnected me back with Jesus. The road really started in Dunedin when I set up a medical centre that was a Christian medical centre. It was counselling and Christianity, and found that there were so many people broken within the church, and it was a pastoral role that I really set out to be more than a counsellor or a doctor. So I ended up at Laidlaw, and through that journey I'm still actually doing PhD studies through Aberdeen, who happen to have some very good theologians in mental health and in practical theology. So that is ongoing, and the main field I'm working with there is in trauma, because psychological trauma was a huge issue after the Christchurch earthquakes. And my medical centre here in Christchurch was dealing with a lot of people with issues and concerns that we just couldn't recognise. And if you put up that first slide, Malcolm, there were people that we just didn't know what was wrong. We couldn't see the insides of hurt because, well, we could see anxiety, we could see depression, we could see people with chest pains. They thought they were having heart attacks, people with gut problems. But the distress was there, and the churches and I were in conversation, so each of us saying, we're not quite sure what we're seeing here. This is new. This is a bit like the liquefaction that was coming up from under the ground. But when we looked at it, it was what we call complex trauma. It was issues from childhood coming to the surface. But like this person in front of you, they had a broken heart. They had, yes, broken limbs because buildings were falling on them. And they had cracks in their minds. And they were crying in a way that we had to start listening to. It wasn't your normal doctor's day. It wasn't the normal symptoms that we would see. It was distress. It was an urgency to help me. What we found out of that time, and this is a journey that's been going on since about 2013, 2014, when we started doing our seminars called Headspace, was that if people could be heard, we had to listen. We may not have always understood quite the language that they were speaking. So we had to stop. We had to stop the medical ways of doing things, or the pastoral ways of doing things, and be present with them. And this was the start of being a little bit like the Good Samaritan. At least we stopped and listened. Now, there's a lot being written about empathy and compassion, and I want to just move into that area a little bit. But firstly, I want to explain a little bit of neurobiology. This is how the brain works, and this is it was complicated for me, so I hope it's not quite so complicated for you. We're a strange species in that our brains are more oriented to how we connect with other people and form supports around us and families and do things together than oriented on ourselves as individuals. Now, that's a strange thing. We're not supposed to be the individuals that we've become, with my needs, my hurts. We are a collective gathering of people. That's what our brains are always trying to do. So when the Industrial Revolution comes along in the age of technology and Wi-Fi and consumerism and social media, it's all turned it around where I am the focus. I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I want my needs met. We've become a very individualistic 20th and 21st century. But God didn't design us like that, not if you look at the neurobiology of the brain. So the first point to make really is that because of this individualistic nature that we've developed, we are losing the art of caring, listening, empathizing, having compassion. We're losing that sense of creating friendships and families and whānau. It's almost as if these parts being unused are like a limb that atrophies. Well, unfortunately, that means connection. That's the anchoring of who we are as human beings, as God creations. And the anchoring of supports is lessening. And that's what we see so much in Christchurch with our youth. There's more anxiety, more insecurity than there's ever been. And Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and those things that I know nothing about, so God bless you if you know more than me, they are trying to connect in a way, but they're not connecting at the embodied level. Now, the embodied level of things is incredibly important to understand when we talk about anxiety. Anxiety is not just a brain thing. It goes down into what's called the limbic system, which is roughly about here. That's the panic. That's the fight, the flight, and the freeze, and the playing possum like a dead animal. That's trying to get us to survive. Now, that's where anxieties are more often buried than just in the mind. So we can't tell people, just get over it. Put your boots on and do up your shoelaces. It doesn't work that way. So when we're trying to comfort people, we have to be aware that a lot of the emotion that they're expressing is just like the slide, trapped more in the body. And if people know about trauma, there's some very famous therapists that talk about trauma trapped in the body. If we try to soothe people like Instagram or Facebook just by connecting on, online, you're not getting that touch, that feel, that real support for people. So if we talk about safety is, yes, in our homes. It's what was lost in the earthquakes. It's what was lost in Gisborne and Auckland, and even through COVID, the rates of abuse in the home, domestic abuse, were very high. If you lose that safety, you lose the connection with other people through our sense of them. Now, this is a strange bit to remember. It's called neuroception. Neuroception is just getting a feel for you and I, if we're face to face, sharing something, eating, talking, laughing, sharing the music like we did previously. We get a sense through our bodies. Now, this isn't hocus pocus. This isn't new agey. This is real neurobiology. It's through that sense in our body called the neuroception that we feel safe enough to share what we feel, to speak in language that I can say, I'm hurt, I've got a broken bone, or I've got a broken heart. We do that through hugs and supports like that. Even the tone of voice conveys a sense, it's safe in my presence, I'm here to support you. Now that's important because this fight, flight, freeze thing that we do when we're panicked, that we're rushed, we can't think properly, that we think we're an animal on our own, that is only calmed by this touch, this care, this voicing concern, this empathy. And empathy really means I feel your feelings. I feel what it is to be you. Compassion goes a step further. It sees who you are as a person. And if I can see who you are as a person, I can see the way forward with you. So compassion is one step further than empathy. If you were just staying in empathy and feeling what you're feeling and not doing anything, you'd get burnt out. And so as doctors, and psychologists and pastors, after the quake, yes, we were starting to burn out because we could feel things. We could see this person on the slide hurt. We didn't fully understand or see what was going on for their meaning in life or their identity. That was where compassion would start. So this is really what I believe we as a church do well. We hear, we feel, we read the same gospel together, we see the same Jesus Christ, we share the same words together, and that's all connecting us back to what is very important, that sense of safety. And in safety, you come back to thinking for yourself, solving your problems for yourself, and not being independent of others, but not being so reliant that you're draining someone else's energy. So picture this person without the eyes crying in horror or despair, calming, and their brain comes back online. And this is called the parasympathetic, for those of you who do neuroanatomy. The parasympathetic means I'm calm again, I can think, I can see my problem. Thank you for helping me, coming alongside me. Now let's travel together. And I think this is what the Good Samaritan did. He saw the person broken, took him to an inn, got the support for him to bring his vitalities back, his decision-making back, and that Good Samaritan said, great, I'll leave you in good hands. I'm off down to Jerusalem, wherever he was going. This person is resourced to carry on their life. The thing about the global picture for New Zealand, I think, is that if churches have been birthed as a nature or within a nation that carries the treaty, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, I think Te Tiriti also carried this point of view of generosity to other people. The treaty was fashioned by missionaries. The treaty, in essence, is a Christian document. I'll leave that with you for your thoughts. But what do we do with Deacon Trust? We sow this thought that as Good Samaritans, we can support and encourage. The first course we created was called Heart Space. That's a course that we brought to the churches. It is, as the name sounds, bringing a space for the heart to operate, be soothed, and get back on the journey. Out of Heart Space, we wanted to bring this more to the broader community. We started the Deacon Training Academy, which is a little bit more headspace, but it's training the thoughts and views that I brought to you tonight across different denominations, even across different religions. But it's sowing the values that you and I hold into our communities, because if we're evangelizing to this world, it needs to have the value of safety, peace, welcoming, compassion, which is seeing and coming alongside other people's journeys and facilitating them forward. Well, look, I'll leave you with those thoughts. The last slide simply gives you some connection with us. If you would like to see what we do, communicate with us. We'd love to hear from you. We're starting our first courses for the Deacon Training Academy. That's under deacon.org in July this year.